Thank you, everyone. So my name's Cathy, and I'm here to talk about our company, 42 Technologies, and also to give you some takeaways in terms of the things that you can do with the data that you have on hand. And I'm going to start off with a question for everybody in the room. So this, in particular, is from a furniture retailer, and I want you to take a look and tell me which item on the picture that you think makes the most money. Okay, well, you're right if you guessed the napkin. That's the kind of thing that data can tell you. This is a particular retail case study that we did to measure bookshelves against tables, against beds in the store, and we found out that small things like accessories and napkins actually made this retailer more profit than all the other things combined. That's crazy. And to be able to measure this, we also give you the impact. So this was a $3.4 million opportunity that people were leaving on the table because they didn't know where their revenue was coming from. It sounds crazy, right? But it's really hard when you have multiple data sets and you don't really know how to go through it. It's also very hard when you list one product over the course of multiple years. If you want to do a time series and compare how this product is done, it's hard to access that kind of data. So that's what we're here to talk about today, is data analytics for retail. And that's what we do at 42. So we take the complex data sets and then we translate it. And I'll tell you a bit more about where we kind of derive a lot of the inspiration and where we get the ideas from, and give you some cases for what you can do moving forward with the brand. Before that, I'll give you a bit of background on the company that I worked at previous to starting this one, which I can guarantee over 90% of the people in this room have used a product or another from Procter Gamble. The biggest misconception that people have about Procter Gamble is that it's a CPG company. That's not the case. Procter Gamble is a data company to the core. In every role we do, in every decision we make, we use data. So I'll give you an example of something we did. To launch a new product this one time, we did 30 different versions of packaging just to test out how consumers would perceive that. And you find that there's a certain percentage lift. Like you could get 30% more sales by changing the color of your logo or changing the positioning of certain call-outs on the packaging. The very same thing happens in retail. When you walk into a grocery store, I can tell you exactly what you're going to buy because we designed the store for you to walk through it and look at certain items and compare the prices in a certain way. So one particular brand that I worked on is called Olay. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with Olay, but there's a couple of different tiers to Olay. There's the high tier, which is the most expensive product. There's a medium tier that everybody else buys, and then there's a basic product. The products are designed such that when you're a medium tier buyer, I design it so that the top tier looks attractive to you, but the bottom tier looks repulsive. That's why some packaging looks ugly in stores. All of this we found out by testing over and over again the reaction that people have and analyzing all these data sets to tell us exactly what happens in our stores. And that's why a company like Procter & Gamble has been able to sell things like toilet paper for 175 years and make money. So think about that. If you're selling luxury products, you should be able to do well over and over again as well. So I'll give you an example of some of the reasons we've seen from working with all the retailers as to why data is not more prominent in this space. And it's for three big reasons. First of all, to analyze data well, it's extremely time consuming. I think everyone here knows that. When we did our reporting, every Friday I'd sit down. There might be 6 hours of the day where I would go through multiple sets of data from things like Nielsen, raw data from point of sale, and it was really, really hard to do on Excel. Most times it would actually crash my computer. So that's one of the big reasons that we see. The second one is that it's expensive to do well. So we had a whole team dedicated to analyzing things that you would never believe, such as loyalty that you have to the product. For instance, I can tell you that most people in this room are probably more loyal to your laundry detergent brand than to your shampoo. That's something that when you think about it on an average daily basis, you probably think you're just picking it up from the store, right? But we know that, and that's affected by numbers. So that also is reflected in the strategies that we implement. So when you walk into a store, I know that you're going to buy Tide if you're a Tide buyer, if you're a soccer mom and you care about getting the stains out in the clothes. As opposed to shampoo, I also know that if I drop the price on my shampoo, I'm going to see a lift in sales for that. So those are also the things that data can do for you. And then the third piece is that in order to do this well, it's really, really difficult. And it's difficult not only because the technical expertise doesn't always exist in the retail organization, but it's difficult for us to do well as well. So we're a technology company, and we're fundamentally focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's modeling out what your data means to the organization and giving you actionable takeaways so that you can actually take the set of data and figure out how to grow your sales, figure out how to grow your margins, figure out what kind of products you should be listing or forecasting or holding onto inventory for, so that way you don't miss out on the gap when the next season rolls around. So as an example of what the dashboard, okay, this isn't showing up, so I'll go to the next one. So we're an online dashboard, and how this works is we have a diagram here that illustrates how our product works, which is essentially we derive data from your website, which is the first image, from your database. So any of the back-end stack that you have, anything that you take in like raw sales, anything that you do in terms of promotions and discounts. And the third one is any formats that you have in terms of exports. So Excel, CSV, anything you have on customer data and things like that, we take that all together and we aggregate it. So the magical part about the platform is I don't need your customer information. All you have to give us is how much each item sold, and then we use that to anticipate how much we think you're going to sell in the future. And our goal is to eventually get to the point where if you give me 1 hour's worth of sales data, I should be able to predict your entire week or entire month's worth of sales. Because you can see the patterns that are trending, you can see the things that people are looking at online, and to be able to combine all that data would take us forever. If everybody in this room looked at it with human eyes, it'd be impossible to go through it all. But with machine learning, with a lot of the new technology and code that we have, you can do this in a millisecond. And so that's the kind of technology that we work with. And then we put it through, and on the other side, which is the number one thing that we focus on at 42, is making all of this complexity simple enough so that anyone can pick it up and learn it in about 5 minutes. So you can pick up the dashboard, you can figure out, in my Chicago store, I want to see how black boots with buckles have performed in May of 2014. You can see that. If you want to see it for any other subset of data, if you want to see it for any other attribute, we can derive it for you. As long as we have the product attribute somewhere, we're able to tell you this in a very easy way. It looks just like a website, and the whole concept behind it is to take an enterprise-grade product and make it consumer-friendly enough so that it's really, truly accessible to anybody, not only in this industry, but to all industries beyond. Of course, we think that retail has a big opportunity, and I'm standing in front of you today because I've seen firsthand the kind of impact that numbers can make for the consumer products industry, for that data company I worked for, and I think the very same thing can happen for you as well. So why do we do this? Because your numbers drive everything. And a lot of times what we see when we talk to retailers is that people will do one-leveled analysis across a variety of different verticals. For example, you'll analyze the volume of sales that you've done, your turnover, your revenue, and then you'll analyze the margins on your products, and then you'll analyze how much inventory you have on hand. And what we found with a lot of retailers, if this is the case with you, come talk to me and I'll share with you the experience we've had talking to others, is that these teams are siloed. But that's not the way to do this. Because if one person knows how much inventory you have and the other person knows how much demand there is, then there's a problem. Those should be the same person. And what we really try to strive for is to put all the data onto the same platform so that you can access it all. So you know when to put discounts out, you know which kind of customer segments to target, you know that if somebody bought one product, the probability that they're going to pick up others and the probability they're going to return to you. And we also do this because this is generally what analysts work with when we talk to them. Really raw, really unstructured data sets, and people will often miss a lot of numbers, but it's up to us to tell you the things that you don't see and you can't see from looking at a spreadsheet like this. So we do a lot of weighted analysis, we use a lot of algorithms to do the calculations we have, and in the end we generate out an interface. This particular one is our geographical interface that basically tells you what products are selling across the world. So maybe you'll find that a certain color or a certain category is trending in Australia, and you want to take steps to reflect that appropriately. So here's what the dashboard actually looks like, and I know it's a little bit light on the screen, but this, for instance, is our sales dashboard. So it can tell you that your top 10% of products generally contribute to about 60 to 70% of your sales. That's crazy. that means you're holding on to 90% of products that are making up less than 30 or 40% of your total sales. And that's probably the case for most brands that are sitting in this room, because you'll have those core products that move customers, you'll have those core products that bring people into the stores. So depending on what your strategy is, if you want to drive up sale, so for instance, if somebody comes in to buy a bag, you want to sell them another accessory that goes with it, that's one thing that you can do using this set of data. Another example of what you can do is to drive more trips to your store. So noticing, for instance, you can filter on here by the number of customers who have only visited once versus customers that have visited higher than your 3.5x average, and then find out really, what group to target and what items to target them with. Another thing we did, and this was just for fun, but this is actually live data on the dashboard, and I took the screenshot yesterday. You'll see that we have a social feed of both Twitter and Instagram. So this might look very visual to you, but there's actually a lot of data powering it. You'll see that circle, that positive review is highlighted in green. There was actually no red. So what we do is we take word algorithm analysis, so we score the content of every single word in a tweet, and we highlight it in green or red to tell you whether someone's tweet is positive or negative. That's just another way of using numbers to quantify something that you probably didn't think was quantifiable, right? So we can also measure over the course of a week, maybe your brand sentiment was really positive on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So that's probably when you should introduce the new product for next week. Or we could tell you maybe on Thursday afternoons, people were really hating on something because it was raining and things like that. And so you can search against different hashtags, different ads. So glad to report, Alice, that every positive comment, all the comments on Twitter for Hackers on the Runway has been very positive. Yeah, it's great. It's been a great conference so far. So thank you, Alice and team, for having us here.
So far.
No, the whole thing is amazing because of the team. And then, yeah, you can also see a feed of your Instagram and things like that. And so basically, the way this works is if someone says, I love this bag, then that may get scored a 0.9. Or if they say, I really hate this color, it might get scored a negative 0.7 or whatever it is. And then we combine all that and we color out the Twitter feed for you. That was just something for fun that our team thought was going to be cool, so we built it. So another thing, I want to give a shout out to the team, not every one of whom could be here today, but they've come with us on stage to New York, to Milan. You can see the guy in the red socks, so that's how you know it's Milan. And also, we've been featured in Vegas, San Francisco, Vancouver. And the reason I talk about this is because we've always had a very global focus. Our idea is that data transcends borders. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter to us that there's different privacy laws here because we work with data in a way that respects all of that. So for instance, if we don't identify any customers, we can still give you general trends of how things are going. We can tell you what kind of products are growing. But for us, data is a truly global thing that every single business is affected by. And we know there's one thing that every store has, and that's the sales terminal. So that's the kind of data that we primarily work with. We start with point of sale data, and then we tie everything else onto that. And if you're a business and you don't have a point of sale terminal, you're probably not collecting money properly, so we should address that first. But yes, I do want to say thank you to the team and for how far we've come. We've also done things in Kuala Lumpur, so we've truly seen how data works in all different parts of the world. And I guarantee you that every business sees the same amount of result and lift from going through data. I know we were talking on Monday night at the speaker's dinner to one of the reporters, Caroline from Bloomberg, who cited an article that said about 7%, only 7%, of retailers are truly taking advantage of data, which means there's a huge market and a lot of opportunity for everyone sitting in this room and beyond to really look into your data. You don't have to collect anything else. Everything that you need is probably already there somewhere, so it's just up to new tools and things like that, and even things like Edited. I know really great brands out there to help you discover, to really mine and harness the power of data to drive growth. So at the end of the day, what are we really targeting? Well, if there's one thing I learned from P&G, it's never to let the other party make conclusions for themselves. You'll probably note this in your discussions with your spouse, with friends, with customers. You can give someone a set of data, and everyone in this room could come up with a different conclusion from it. So what we really try to do is let the numbers speak for themselves. we take the numbers and we put it into sentences, we put it into phrases so that there's no mistake. You're not looking at a spreadsheet that you could translate wrong, but you're looking at something that actually tells you these are the top 3 SKUs for this entire season, and you need to list more of them for next year. So that's the kind of thing that we do, and we really try to analyze it. And at the end of the day, all that this is about is to drive growth for you, for the brand, because you have the data there, and you have the people that are there that really care about growing the brand, and all you need is a better tool to help you make the right decisions. So that's 42, and if you're interested in hearing more, or if you have any other stories about how you can save money on groceries or not, pick up the things that I designed for you to pick up in the stores, come talk to me after, and happy to share our experiences. Thank you.
Wow.